The views expressed by the host of this podcast are not opinion-based or for entertainment purposes. They are actually facts and truth, no matter if other people like it or not. It is the Michigan sports truth, and nothing can ever stop it from being correct.
Hey there, Michigan sports fanatics, and welcome to episode 224 of the Michigan Sports Truth on Spreaker. I'm Taylor Phillips with my co-host Ed Smith. Thanks so much for being on here with me, Ed. How have you been?
Doing good, very well, Taylor. Good morning to you, first and foremost. And how have been the Olympics treating you so far?
Not too bad. I've only been keeping tabs. I haven't been able to watch much, but
well, luckily, I would really recommend you download that the NBC Sports app or NBC Sports Extra wherever you can go. So you probably help keep you up to date, also give you brief highlights, also the live streaming and everything. But
if only I had a provider account, and I can't afford to pay.
I understand. But my brief thoughts on it so far, it's been in many ways historic. Once again, with two constant names, it seems, with Michael Phelps and Usain Bolt. At least with Phelps, it seems to be the end for sure. This time around, he seems more adamant that this is his final go-around in Olympic competition. With 23 career gold medals, was it now 28 total in terms of Olympic events? Quite staggering, quite phenomenal. Lets us know this is probably witnessing a once-in-a-lifetime athlete, no matter what sport or practice that you're doing. What Michael Phelps did was simply impressive beyond all measures. Not to mention the fact, not just swimming or what we're seeing in track and field, Usain Bolt. We're also seeing things of other fields with gymnastics, primarily the U.S. women's team, Simone Biles being the lead. The main attraction, it seems to be, for this go around, the way it was for the Gabby Douglas show in 2012 in London. Also, in terms of making more history and back to swimming, another Simone Manuel even became the first African American woman to, I believe, win a individual medal, let alone a gold. When she won a gold the other night in their individual was 4 by the 100 relay or something like that. So congrats to her, congrats to Simone Biles, congrats to Usain Bolt, Michael Phelps, all the other participants, especially those that represented Team USA in their respective fields for medaling so far and what's to come. But now it's time to get down to showtime.
Yeah, got plenty to get to. Tigers, Lions, and college football. But before we begin, I want to remind everyone to share this episode and our entire podcast on social media. Have their friends share that as well. And follow me on Spreaker as Taylor Phillips online at Spreaker.com. Because I want to tell them that the Michigan Sports Truth podcast here on Spreaker is in search of local advertising sponsors. If anyone has a business that's interested in sponsoring this program, please email me at TaylorGatorPhillips14@yahoo.com. or privately message me on Facebook or Twitter. That being said, it's time to talk some Tigers.
That one is long gone.
So the Tigers get swept by the Seattle Mariners. They lose 3-0 on Brad Ausmus putting in Mark Lowe, giving up an insurance home run, or the insurance RBI single by Heredia after giving up a double. He struck out the first two batters, but he couldn't hold the Mariners off the board after Michael Fulmer and Hisashi Iwakuma duked it out. Fulmer gave up 2 runs, took the loss. Tigers offense was dead. And then Then on Tuesday, Tigers had a 4-0 lead, and then 4-1, and then Justin Wilson gave up a game-tying 3-run home run. Victor went into 15 innings. Victor Martinez a solo home run, and then K-Rod, who still hadn't been rested at that point, was warming up in the bullpen. In the earlier extra innings for way too long, had to wait. And then in the 15th inning, he got his opportunity, and he blew a save, his third blown save of the year. And the Mariners won 6-5 with a little help from Justin Upton's poor fielding, mind you. Mariners win 6-5 in 15 innings in that one. And then Wednesday they won 3-1, I think. Nelson Cruz, the game-winning home run in the eighth inning off Justin Wilson. Justin Verlander and King Felix Hernandez both got a no decision, 1-1 tie. And then Anibal Sanchez got the hell beat out of him as the Tigers went into Arlington. Gave up eight runs in an 8-5 loss in Arlington to the Texas Rangers. So that was 5 straight losses for the Tigers. See, here's the thing. Brad Ausmus misused K-Rod again in Tuesday's game by warming him up in the bullpen for too long and making him way too long in the late innings, and then using him in the 15th inning. And I felt like I was the only person on earth blaming about half of that on Ausmus for misusing K-Rod, and the other half on K-Rod struggling by himself. Since then, when the Tigers still kept their losing streak alive, I got sick and tired of hearing about the possibilities of Ausmus staying if the Tigers finished with only a winning record and missed the playoffs, and I got sick and tired of seeing fans on Twitter rooting for the Tigers to win because of that. Because if they root for the Tigers to win, because if they root for the Tigers to win, then they want Ausmus to stay, which is a grave mistake, because if Ausmus stays and signs an extension, then it's going to be the same old mediocrity of not winning a playoff game, and most of all, not ever winning a World Series championship again since 1984, which is horrible to me. So I started a movement of my own. On Twitter, which was #TankToFireAusmus, and it seemed like nobody agreed with me on it. So I went with it as a one-man movement, and it was going great through Friday's delayed game. But then I realized on Saturday night, K-Rod performed much better with a three-batter 14-pitch ninth inning, which wasn't quite a 1-2-3 inning. I know he still has yet to get back up to that mountain peak, but he only allowed one hit and got the game-ending ground ball double play to pick up his 33rd save of the season, and that made me feel better. So now I'm in the middle. Tigers win 2-0. Matt Boyd got the win. Casey McGay, 4 hits. Victor Martinez, an RBI single. McGay with an RBI double. That was his 4th hit of the game. And then on Sunday, Tigers shut him out again, 7-0. Michael Fulmer pitches a complete game shutout. Tigers with Tigers playing some long ball. Most 3 of them down the left field, down one of the lines, the left field line or the right field line. 2 down the right field line, one down the left field line, and then Miguel Cabrera a home run to right field. Not so down the line. So that's 4. And Brad Ausmus, after seeing Michael Fulmer throw over 100 pitches, decides to leave him in, and Michael Fulmer gets it done. And that's got to be a really good feeling for a rookie
That's a good feeling, for sure. Even though more than likely he is on possibly an innings count with the amount that he's probably going to be used for this, at least for the season. You don't know if and when they're going to pull the plug or shut him down, so to speak, because they used to do that with rookies. Unless somehow they make a deep playoff run and they need him. I'll get back to Fulmer in just a second, but first of all, let's get back to the week in review. This was not a good week. It was very, very up and down, roller coaster, you could say, since our last podcast. They won, like you mentioned, Taylor, they did lose 5 in a row. The sweep to the Mariners, then losing the first game to the Rangers. But before that, also, they did lose 3-1 to the Mets as well. So that's a 5-game streak, which really hurt them in the standings, so to speak. Now, they have rebounded it by winning 2 in a row. But that 5-game loss, as a result of that 5-game losing streak, as a result of that, leaves them now trailing Cleveland by 5 games in the AL Central Division race. Still within striking distance, but not nowhere near the bounce that they had last week, or rather the week before. Whereas in the wild card standings, again, another case of an unfortunate measure. They're now trailing Boston by 1.5 games for that coveted second wild card spot. So, Detroit, the Tigers were in a good spot last week, even I guess you could say at the conclusion of our latest episode. But since then, now they've done a complete 180, and so now they're back on that on the outside looking in bubble, so to speak. But there's still about a month and a half left to go here, so there's still plenty of time for teams to get hot, get cold. Hopefully, you see guys like Justin Upton get their heads straight. Not to mention getting guys like Nick Castellanos and Cameron Maybin back, and Jose Iglesias back from injury. Well, now had to be put on DL. Maybin, I believe he was put on as a retroactive to August 4th, so he doesn't have to serve as many days, but still a crucial loss that you really can't afford to have at this time, which is kind of why I understand in some instance why Justin Upton hasn't been, I guess you could say, been told to have a seat or benched for a game or so, because trust me, as great of a June and July that he had in terms of OPS, he's had a terrible August so far, not just hitting, but also now, as you saw, I think in the loss, like you mentioned, against Seattle, now with his defense. As much as I could say, as much as I would love to see Ausmus bench him, you can't do that right now because what you're going through, it's a crucial stretch, first and foremost, but even still, I would do that. But more importantly, injuries. Maybin, Iglesias, and Castellanos are down, so you can't really necessarily. I guess you can call Maybin not Maybin here, but Upton a healthy scratch. You can't give them the healthy scratch treatment if the other guys are hurt right now, and you're in the middle of a crucial pennant chase here. So it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation if you're Ausmus. But back to Ausmus, I actually do agree. You know me more than I do, Taylor. You know more than I do, rather, Taylor. That I want Ausmus fired just as bad as you, if not worse even. But I do understand, in a way, if you want to play devil's advocate here, this is a team, this is a city, this is a franchise that has gone 3 decades without winning a championship. You went to the show, went to the World Series in 06 to 2012. Over 3 decades, correct. Excuse me. So, right, that's 32 years coming up almost here. Been to the World Series in 06. Some people thought you should have won it there. You threw it away, literally, with errors among other things against the Cardinals. Then 2012 against San Francisco, another series. I think it's fair to say you were favored to win. You had Miguel Cabrera coming off an MVP and a Triple Crown. Justin Verlander a year removed from a Cy Young and an MVP.
They were favored to win. They were favored to win in both World Series appearances.
Right, favored to win both World Series appearances, and then they got embarrassingly swept by the Giants. So since then, sprinkling a little bit of ALCS appearance, a couple of ALCS appearances, it's just been nothing but so close but yet so far away. You can find a way, and it's compared to what the Braves did in the 90s. Only difference is the Braves actually won the world title once in a while. So it's I want Ausmus fired, but I understand why some fans listen. You have some talent there, and I think it's tied back to the whole Mr. Mike Ilitch wanting to see this team bring a world title to the city of Detroit before he dies. And that factors into that, and the payroll and the talent that you have, that you appear to have better than most teams in this division, and you're still underperforming. Granted, that
lack of consistency
to your manager. Exactly, very inconsistent. Thank you for pointing that out. It's frustrating for sure, but when you see the talent that's on here, and you see, for instance, like you did with the 8-game win streak, seeing JD Martinez come back, knowing what we're seeing with Michael Fulmer, hopefully, Daniel Norris could be give you that little bit of boost as well. And not to mention the fact that eventually we'll be getting Iglesias, Maven, and Castellanos back from injury. You have the feelings, or the optimistic hope, I would say, that all you have to do is, even if it means winning the worst case scenario, you get the second wildcard spot, and you have to win the play-in game. As long as you get in, you're in. Whereas if you have to use Verlander for the wild card game, you could still have Fulmer, you still have Norris. Hopefully, you would hope to have Zimmerman if he's a semblance of what he was in April and May, not the shell that he's become since June. So those are your reasons why, even though Brad Ausmus is your manager, you still want them to win as much as they can and possibly win another World Series, because it's the mindset. It's knowing you've been so long without a title. You've been this championship star. You're willing to take any semblance, any nibble, anything, even if it means dealing with Brad Ausmus here. So, would you rather deal with a guy you don't like, or would you rather deal with a world title parade down Woodward? So, that would probably go through why, some Tigers fans aren't as adamant about joining your cause, so to speak. It's not to say you're wrong, trust me. Any other year, I would say, hell yeah, fire this clown, especially if it was the 90s. But let's call it, you're so close, you've got that taste, but not the full-blown meal of winning the World Series, and then knowing the talent that we have and the payroll that we put into it, will feel like a colossal waste of time if all this came to, was for nothing without a World Series title, which unfortunately it might seem it's looking to be. But you still have the hope, still have faith, and the optimism that maybe they can pull something together, go on a crazy run here and shock everybody. So that's the only reason I could say why that, this movement, so to speak, to tank the fire Ausmus has been getting much steam, just for that reason, just because of those reasons I pointed out. Fulmer, I gotta say, it was evident before he was the front runner for Rookie of the Year. Unless something crazy goes happen, he sealed it with his performance on Sunday. Granted, it might have taken up a little bit too many innings, but still, hey, when a shutout is a shutout. So, congrats to him for that. And I don't think he's going to win, be a serious contender for the Cy Young. But he does have at least Rookie of the Year wrapped up. Yeah, but he's got Rookie of the Year wrapped up at least.
Yeah, definitely. Let me get to Ausmus and the Tigers trying to win. The Tigers are never going to win a World Series with Brad Ausmus. They're not even going to win a playoff game or a playoff series because Brad Ausmus is going to keep dragging all that talent down with his stupid decisions one after another. It's going to keep hurting them. And that's what.
Listen, what you're saying, I agree with you 100%. You got no qualms with me with that. It's just I'm try to give you a different perspective. If you're a fan base that's gone this long without winning anything, you're willing to take any scraps you can get. I mean, for God's sakes, even the Royals won with Ned Yost last year. You don't see many fans complaining about that. They're more so that they're glowing up that they finally got a title. And that'll be the same situation you'll be seeing here if that would happen to Detroit.
Yeah, I just don't see that happening any time in the future. They need a change.
I don't see it either. I agree, but but if you want to be optimistic, like I said, just find a way to get in between the wild card chase or even the central chase. Win the wild card game if need be, and just go on a crazy run, because we've seen a lot of things. Like, for instance, I'm pretty sure in each of their past championship seasons, nobody favored the Giants at all, if ever, during that whole entire run. So you never know what could happen in baseball.
Right. And then there are other members of the DSR, the Detroit Sports Rag, that are saying that even if the Tigers make the playoffs, if they don't win the World Series, then Brad Ausmus could very well get the gate, and for some reason, if the Tigers don't make it any further than the ALDS or not even win a playoff game, then he gets fired. Dave Campbell at DWC462 on Twitter saying he doesn't think Ausmus will come back because the Tigers won't win a world championship. It's that simple. And that's one thing I agree with. What I don't agree with is fans saying that Ausmus will return just because the Tigers, if the Tigers finish with a winning record and not make the playoffs. I don't agree with that. Do you?
Yeah, winning record means squad in the regular season. You put enough money and resources. You try to build this team to contend for World Series titles here. So keep it crap and get out the pot at this point. And if you haven't delivered, or at least done your damnedest to try, then what's the point of keeping you? Especially this is the last year of his contract anyway, so it could be like a Mike Babcock situation where you don't want to bring him back, but you can save him. I guess save him his dignity, if you want to call it that, by not firing him, but just choosing not to bring him back since his contract has expired.
Yeah, this is his last year. So, Anibal Sanchez here. Let's get to him, too. He's gone back to his first half season form Saturday night after having 3 decent recent performances. I don't see much or any improvement whatsoever this year from him. There's got to be a way for General Manager Alavila to terminate Sanchez's $80 million contract and eat up the rest of his money. Sanchez has been the major problem in the starting rotation for the Tigers, and it needs to be fixed at some point. Another thing.
Agree.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Another thing, the Tigers' offense continues to struggle until this past Sunday. They scored 7 runs and helped Michael Fulmer get his complete game shutout win. However, if they continue to struggle through the rest of the year, I think they should consider giving their hitting coach Wally Joyner the axe, because I don't think he's taking enough accountability for what's happening with their at bats. I think you're yeah. I think I think
accountability needs to be held at some point here.
Mm-hmm. But
definitely agree with you with that, especially on Sanchez as well. I don't know what the hell happened. He had couple of good starts. I guess you could say 3 good starts.
3, yeah.
Or at least 2, so to speak. He
3.
gave him 1 run against Chicago. And even though he had the loss against New York, only gave him 1 run there. Gave you 10. Gave you 7, 8 innings of good work with 10 strikeouts. Yeah, gave you 8 innings, 10 strikeouts, 1 run, and then got blown up again against Texas. Now, it could be the fact that he has struggled either against Texas or in Arlington Stadium. I believe it was right here. It was said by here on ESPN in the game recap. In his now 4 career starts at Arlington against the Rangers, Sanchez now has a ERA of 17.63. So if you want to look at glass half full point of view, you could say that, hey, Sanchez has always had a tough time at that at that ballpark. One win in 4 starts, ERA over 17. That's a stadium known to be a bandbox anyway. But if you paid attention to what he's been this year, you realize that's not really a coincidence. So it's a double-edged sword.
That's right. And Anibal Sanchez still can't improve. We don't know why. We don't even know why he was in the rotation in the first place this year, despite his 3 good starts. And I counted them 1, 2, 3. He just isn't that good this year. I think his career. I think his career may be short-lived. But
I mean, it always could be a possibility. For instance, I guess you could say somewhat related because it ties to the Tigers. Prince Fielder had to retire. This is a guy that signed a mammoth contract with the Tigers in 2012. Got traded after the 2013 season. And unfortunately, just couldn't do anything remotely palpable in Texas. 2 of his 3 seasons had to end with neck surgery, and with this one, he was told, he just wouldn't be able to be medically cleared to play again. So, even with all that money, even all that, it's another example. If certain things aren't right, it's essentially a wasted contract. I don't know what's going on with Sanchez. None of us know what's going on with him personally, whether it be injury or mental or physical. But hopefully, it's got to be figured out at some point, whether it be during the season or after the season, because you can't explain. He had his own share of inconsistencies last year or the last couple of seasons, but it's not like he was completely terrible the way he's been this year, where he gave you where it's probably one good start. Yeah, he gives you like 5 or 6 bad starts in a row, then one good start or 2, and back to 2 or 3 more bad starts. It's just bad, good, bad. So, something is definitely up with Sanchez. You just don't know what.
Yeah, and here's another thing. Anibal Sanchez starts Wednesday at 7:10 in the series finale against the defending World Series champion Kansas City Royals. He's taking on Yordano Ventura, but we got to go in chronological order here. Daniel Norris against Ian Kennedy, Monday night at 7:10. Then we got Justin Verlander and Danny Duffy pitchers duel right here at Tuesday at 7:10, and then the aforementioned Sanchez and Ventura matchup at 7:10. And then the Tigers start their 4-game series against the Boston Red Sox. Very important matchup for the American League wildcard spot. The first game obviously being scheduled to start at 1:10 due to the fact that it is Grandparents' Day, and then the 2 games after that they're both at 7:10, and then Sunday then the routine Sunday at 1:10 type of thing. Then they have Monday off. Then Tuesday through Wednesday they're at Target Field against the against the Twins. Tuesday through Thursday they're at Target Field against the Twins. Then they return home against the Angels and the White Sox from the 26th through the 31st.
So in this stretch as we come upon the second half of the month of August here, you have a 7-game homestand with the series against Kansas City and Boston. Then really only one, minor road trip with a 3-game set in Minnesota. Then you come back home to finish out the month with 6 more home games. So the opponents in those series are Kansas City, Boston, Los Angeles, and the White Sox. So crucial games to win, especially, like you mentioned, the games against Boston, since what they are now ahead of us at the moment for the second wild card spot. So these head-to-head games will be very, very crucial to our chances And after that, it's September, and it's home stretch time essentially, because it's where pennants are usually clinched and settled in that month of September. Sometimes, it goes even into October with a few games at the last, even at the last day of the year, even because I think, an instance, the Tigers won their last AL Central title. They won it a couple of years ago, last day of the year at home against Kansas City. So that's an example of how down to the wire these pennant chases can go to be. Also, on the opposite end, we all remember Game 163 in 2009. How can we not? So there's still quite a ways to go for the American Central Division to be settled, or even for the American League wild card hunt. Because even currently, the Yankees, in a way, they're still in it. They're 3 games over 500. They're only a 4.5 back currently at Boston in the wild card chase. So, bit of a log jam, so to speak, that's still far from settled between now and early October as we figure out who's going to represent who in the playoff picture.
That's right. So to sum it all up, the Tigers keep winning to keep themselves in the playoff race, whereas Brad Ausmus, like a very deadly computer virus, keeps dragging them down with his stupid in-game decisions by himself. That just puts the Tigers in a difficult situation based on whether they want to keep or fire their manager, Brad Ausmus. That's going to be one of our 5 questions right now, but later on. But right now we got some Lions topics to discuss here.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions!
Before the preseason began, the Lions discovered that tight end Eric Ebron has actually had a sprained ankle. He did not wear a cast or a boot, but my exact status probably week to week. Unless we have any kind of status source on Eric Ebron due to his sprained ankle.
Yeah, it was especially when compared to initial reports that it might have been, or initial speculation, I should say, not reports, but speculation and possible fear that maybe it could have been a torn Achilles. Now finding out it's just a mere minor ankle injury. Good news for Ebron, yeah, definitely for sure. So even if he has to miss a couple of games, more than likely he probably won't play the preseason. They'll give him as much time to rest as possible, so that he'll be needed for the opener on the 11th next month against the Colts. So more than likely he probably will be asked to play it safe and not play much, if at all, in this preseason.
And then the Lions kick off their preseason in Pittsburgh, and they won 30-17. Not much offense to start off with, but they scored a touchdown in the first half, and 2 field goals, and then they took the lead with a field goal, and then Jake Rudock did most of the offensive work at quarterback in the second half. Rudock is proving already after one game to be a backup, to be a really good backup quarterback on this Lions roster. But we'll have to see in the next three preseason games. I thought Billingsley stepped up. I think, he scored a touchdown, and so did Washington. And
Wayne Washington, 96-yard kickoff return, by the way, very impressive.
Yeah, and also their defense stepped up their game in the second half. Unlike the first half, they gave up 14 points in the first half, but that was it. Since
14
that
points as well as 2 turnovers.
Yeah,
or forcing a takeaway, rather.
Mm-hmm. Defense, yeah, but in the second half, the defense only allowed a field goal in the second half, and did the rest while the offense did their part. It resulted in that 30-17 win, and then after that, we just found out before this episode began that the Lions have signed tight end Andrew Quarless a former Green Bay Packer who was recently suspended 2 games due to personal conduct violation, and then 34 minutes prior to this point, the Lions placed wide receiver Andrew Caldwell on the injured reserve with a broken bone in his hand. Oh, man.
Yikes.
Oh, man.
At least with the Quarless signing, I definitely understand the reason why behind that. It's for depth purposes. While you wait on Ebron to recover from his injury, you still need somebody at that spot here. So just in case he's not ready for the start of the season, you still need another tight end of sorts. So hence the signing of Quarless here.
It says more in this tweet from Ian Rappaport on Twitter at Rapsheet. Says Andrew Caldwell says he'll discuss an injury settlement with Detroit and should return in 2016. So it's going to be later on at some point, but later on in the regular season. And, oh man, I just found out Jim Bowden, A-Rod to the Marlins is going to happen. But back to the Lions here. Two reasons why they put Andrew Caldwell on the IR. Two reasons why they signed Quarless. They realized that Andrew Caldwell broke his hand, and like you pointed out, for depth purposes, Quarless has a lot more depth. Andrew Quarless and replacing an Andrew Caldwell. There's 2 Andrews here, replacing an Andrew with an Andrew here.
Andrew squared. And like I mentioned before, with the help at tight end, while Ebron's with his injury. So, again, not too much to take away or try to bash or whatever. This is a very reasonable move that they had to make.
And then their second preseason game, Thursday at 7:30 on Fox 2 and the Lions Television Network, and on WJR, the new flagship radio affiliate for the Detroit Lions. They play the Cincinnati Bengals. You got any inside information as we try to preview those guys?
Next game is against Cincy, correct?
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, in terms of breaking down preseason games, all I can say is don't get hurt, don't look too terrible. And most importantly, again, to reiterate point 1, don't get hurt. Of course, we saw that with Ebron here. So what I could say is, look impressive with what you can do. Try to not look too rusty or whatnot, and most importantly, just don't get hurt. With 4 preseason games, it's just, God, I wish it was like 3 or 2, so it wouldn't be too much of a hassle here. But with 4 preseason games, you got to be as careful and conservative. It's essentially like treating these players like you're treating a newborn baby here, or a toddler that's beginning to walk. You don't want them bumping into anything that could hurt them. So that'll be my biggest qualm about that. Now, for Cincy, though, they do have a good defense. I think, it was clearly evident in the playoff game against Pittsburgh, I believe. Was it against Pittsburgh? It might have been someone else. But, they had a very impressive defensive showing, even though it came back to hurt them and they still lost. I really liked what Cincy's defense showed between Burfict and Pac-Man Jones among other teams on the defensive front. So it seems like with these next 3 teams you're going up against, the Bengals, the Ravens, and the Bills, seems to be a theme of defense throughout. So I would say is try not to get overwhelmed by any of their defense when the first unit's on the field, I should say. At least with the first units on the field. Second unit, who cares? Just don't get hurt all around. but try not to get overwhelmed with your number ones on there against their number ones when the opposing team has the defense on the field.
So with that, it's time to preview college football.
Touchdown, Michigan! Touchdown, MSU!
According to Sports Illustrated, the Michigan Wolverines are ranked 4th, and the Michigan State Spartans are ranked 13th. The Michigan Wolverines have a new quarterback, and so do the Michigan State Spartans. So, both of those two teams have a new quarterback department, but the rest of the roster kind of this, almost kind of the same as last year. But the Spartans have lost Connor Cook. The Wolverines have lost Jake Rudock. The Spartans, of course, are going with Tyler O'Connor. The Wolverines, who are they going at quarterback again? The Wolverines here.
It's not determined for now, but it appears to be either Wilton Spite or another player. I know Shane Morris is not on the files. It was between Spite and another player. I forgot his name at the moment. But Wilton Spite was one of the front runners for the spot for the starting quarterback job last I checked.
Okay. So it's kind of interesting how Michigan is ranked 4th by any kind of source, especially Sports Illustrated. But we'll have to see what happens. They have Jim Harbaugh as their head coach, but according to the fan base.
That's one big reason. Another reason is the coming off of the fact, not just Jim Harbaugh as their head coach, it's the fact that they have Jim Harbaugh and they're coming off a 10-win season. Some people, I guess you could say, myself included, would say should have been 11 wins. But hey, botch punt is a botch punt. You live with the consequences. You also have a team that, yes, your starting quarterback is now gone. You have to replace him, but there's no worries on that because we've seen what Harbaugh can do with quarterbacks time after time after time. Whether you're Andrew Luck or even Alex Smith, if you're a quarterback, Harbaugh can work magic with you. So you got that. Almost all of your stars offensively, with the exception of a couple of linemen or whatnot, they're back. That includes Jake Butt. That includes De'Veon Smith, Amari Darboh, Jehu Chesson. They're back. Your defense, save for a couple of guys in the linebacking spot, they're back as well. Not to mention your defensive line includes Rashawn Gary. Hopes to be a good freshman sensation the way Jabril Peppers was. Speaking of the aforementioned Peppers, he's in a secondary that includes him and Jordan Lewis. So on the whole, between offense and defense, this is a strongly reloaded and experienced team coming back with Jim Harbaugh as their head coach. With, I guess you could say, not easy schedule, especially when their 3 biggest games are on the road, but certainly manageable schedule, where if they found a way to win all those games or win out, without question, they're currently ranked 8th nationally in the coaches poll. But like I mentioned before in the last episode, between name recognition, brand, Harbaugh factor, Michigan, if they can, it's a tough task, but if they win out all their games, that includes at Iowa, at MSU, at Ohio State, win the college, and also win the conference title, without question, they are a shoo-in to make the playoff. Now it comes to out after that, especially now seeing apparently Jabril Peppers on the cover here, what individual awards could be brought about, and seeing what Peppers did last year, knowing what he's capable of, he could be a potential dark horse Heisman candidate. I think Deshaun Watson from Clemson is the favorite, the preseason favorite. But don't sleep on a guy like Peppers trying to crash the party here.
Mm-hmm. And then the Michigan State Spartans still have Mark D'Antonio as their head coach. They still got the type of some of the type of players that they had on their roster for like 2 or 3 years now.
Their system seems to be their system seems to be set up in the way where, even though it's a big loss to lose a guy like Connor Cook, similar to what it was losing Kirk Cousins, they find a way to find, even if it takes a minor step back one season, they come right back at you the next. It's not like we're saying, MSU they're going to win, they're going to finish 7-5. No, I expect them to get at least 8 or 9 wins, possibly even 10. That could come depending on whether or not they beat Michigan again this year. So, and I see them no worse being an 8-14. I think bare minimum for them, their threshold could be 9 wins. Anything after that is gravy for MSU. Because one, Mark D'Antonio is your coach, and two, they still find a way. Even though Pat Narduzzi is no longer there, they still find a way to have relative success from the defensive front, and with, of course, D'Antonio as the head coach. They always find a way, I guess, whether it be putting the chip on your shoulder or finding other methods of motivation. They do find a way to have good or great seasons when you least expect it. So I am not keeping an eye out on Michigan State, or not sleeping on them, rather. And I don't think SI's either. That's why they have them ranked 13th. It's just tough to do because knowing that in all likelihood, you should not have won that game last year against Michigan, and you got embarrassed by Alabama in the playoff, it lowers your, that's probably those 2 reasons why they're not in the top 10 per se. Because remember, these are the defending Big Ten champions here. But I think some see it as a bit of a fluke title. I still can't believe they went into Columbus last year and beat Ohio State. That one still boggles my mind. So, knowing that they are behind Ohio State and Michigan in terms of returning talent, stack, and whatnot, even though OSU's got a few parts to replace on their own, but they still got Urban Meyer's their coach, I can see why, in terms of national perspective, MSU is they're that leading bronze medal candidate in MSU and OSU. I guess they're doing the battle for the gold. Makes sense with the theme of Olympics talk that we're doing here. So again, don't count out MSU, but it doesn't seem as likely they'll have a strong season like they did last year. Nothing bad to say, but it's just the way it is.
Looking at the roster here, they still have Malik McDowell. The Bola is here. Riley Bola, Demetrius Cox, Josiah Price at tight end. He's still around. Jeremy Schramm, R.J. Shelton at wide receiver. He's pretty good. Jalen Watts-Jackson. Oh, man, I really hate to break the hearts of Michigan fans everywhere again for his play last year. That wanted for Spartan fans. I know that'll excite Spartan fans everywhere too. But moving on, Damian Terry, Delton Williams, Gabe Sherrod, Malik Smith. Might not know him too much, but anyway, those are the guys that will lead MSU to the top. That may lead MSU to the top 25. Michael Geiger still is their kicker, a senior. Yep.
Yeah, it's a good squad. They have good players, and Mark D'Antonio, they have a great coach in D'Antonio. It's going to be hard for them to get over losing Calhoun, Shalik Calhoun, Connor Cook, and Aaron Burbidge to the draft here. So that would be like Michigan. Yeah, they lost Rudock, but imagine them losing Rudock, Jake Butt, and Jabril Peppers in one draft class. Yeah, tough to come back from. So I don't doubt MSU's ability to still win games because of it, but I don't expect them to possibly compete for another Big Ten title. I still say, like for them, I think it's going to be a 9-win season for them. I'm not sure. Didn't get a chance to look. In 5 questions, is the season preview like give predictions for the record for the teams, or is that going to have to come next week?
All right, so it's time for 5 questions. Are you ready?
Absolutely, Taylor. Let him rip.
It's time for 5 questions on the Michigan Sports Truth on Spreaker.
Question number 1. With the Tigers winning 2 straight heading home following their previous 5-game losing streak, how difficult are they in a situation based on whether they want to keep or fire their manager, Brad Ausmus?
It's not difficult now if they miss the playoffs, though, so that they have no reason to either fire or, like I said, last year was contract not to bring back Ausmus, the old Mike Babcock special. That decision could become more of a difficult, in terms of level of difficulty, it depends on whether or not how far they go. If they miss the playoffs, he's gone for sure. Make the playoffs, you don't know. Deep playoff run, okay. And if they win the World Series, it's hard to see them not bring him back. That's how I would rate it in terms of levels on the difficulty scale on what decision you would make potentially in terms of wanting to bring back Ausmus.
Yeah, Al Avila should know this too. Question number 2.
Next question.
How big was it for Francisco Rodriguez, K-Rod, to get a much cleaner save Saturday night in Texas?
Big confidence booster for one, because leading up to that, forget about the debacle in Seattle. Even instances where he got his 30th save was against, I want to say Minnesota, I believe, or not Minnesota either. Let me see. Excuse me. Let me check the schedule. It was either against Houston or between Houston, Chicago, and New York. It was in Chicago. The 30th save that he got against Chicago, even the 31st that he got against the Mets, not easy goings. Used a lot of pitches. Then, of course, gave up the 2-run homer in the ninth and in the loss against the Mets. Then, of course, the debacle in the 15th inning against Seattle. So to see K-Rod come in and not work a 1-2-3 inning, but still get the job done as clean as he could compared to what his last few outings have been. Definitely good for a morale booster, especially knowing that he did get some rest in between Tuesday's game and Saturday's game. Yeah. So that helped a lot too.
Just enough rest, not too long, but just long enough.
Exactly. You don't want another. Yeah, exactly. You don't want another Joaquin Soria situation. So, like I said, we're approaching the home stretch soon. So it was in there time for him to kick it into another gear. This will be the moment here, and him getting that save in Texas probably was a good jump start to start things off.
Next question.
Question number 3. What were your thoughts on Jake Rudock's performance in the Lions' first preseason game of 2016?
I liked it, actually. It showed that, he wants to prove his merit. Because clearly the Lions drafted him for a reason. And I guess potentially see if he has what it takes to be their potential backup quarterback, to establish himself as their go-to backup quarterback the way Sean Hill was a few years back. Because who would you rather take, Dan Orlovsky or Jake Rudock? Yeah, I can tell you without question. Forget the whole, Michigan bias or what you want. I'd rather have got Rudock over a guy that doesn't know where the hell the boundary is, the back of the end zone is, before running out of bounds. So that alone has Rudock in my personal front-running spot to become the next backup. But there's still 3 games to go. Orlovsky had an okay game himself. So it could come down to if both guys perform well. I wouldn't be too surprised if the Lions decide to keep them both on, and then it's just a battle to see who's going to be the third string. More than likely Rudock, since he is the rookie. So unless Orlovsky performs terribly, I think he's still going to remain as the primary backup. But if Rudock does have an impressive showing, he'll for sure make the team. Probably at least the third string QB for now. But if he keeps having good showings and good spots and appearances, he'll move up to that primary backup role in no time.
Next question.
Question number 4. Do the Michigan Wolverines deserve the number 4 ranking by Sports Illustrated?
Number 4, probably a little bit too high. I think they deserve top 10 at least. Because let's remember, even though they had a great defense, have the hype of Jim Harbaugh and whatnot, have great players on their side, at the end of the day, last year, they didn't win anything worth important. They didn't win the Big Ten title. They couldn't even get into the national playoff, let alone win the national title sweepstakes here. They did have an impressive showing in their bowl game against the Florida Gators. So between hype and expectation and seeing what you saw last year and knowing Jim Harbaugh is your head coach, that would be the reason for the expectations. I probably would rank them a little bit lower, probably around closer to what the Pro Bowl has them at, probably 7 or 8, because they have the potential to be one of those Final Four teams. But I want to see them try to prove it and earn it first and try to slap it on them right from the get-go.
Next question.
Question number 5. This is a good one. Can the Spartan? Which bowl game do you think the Spartans will enter? Since we already know they're going to end up with a winning record in 2016.
You threw me a good change-up on that one. I think they could still end up with a good New Year's Day bowl, probably a Buffalo Wild Wings or a Capital One or a Outback Bowl, something like that. It'll be hard to say they get one of the New Year's Six bowls or a playoff bowl or whatever the case may be, because they're just in. Now, if they were in a different division for Michigan and Ohio State, then you could say they have a better chance of possibly winning the Big Ten. But they're not, so that hurts them a little bit. So with 9 wins here or there, maybe even 10, I think their high ceiling could be another New Year's Six bowl. They've had since this new system was created, they played in 2 straight New Year's Six bowls. Both of them were Cotton Bowls, I believe. Of course, the last one was in the college football playoff semifinal. So if they find themselves in another New Year's Six bowl, it'll be quite still a fairly highly impressive season for the Spartans.
All right, we're going to have to wrap this up really quickly because I got to go to work here. For all the listeners, for all the listeners and fans out there, if you want to answer those questions, just replay the episode and answer them in the comment bank below this episode. That wraps up episode 224 of the Michigan Sports Truth. Ed, thanks so much again for your help. I'll talk to you again on episode 225 sometime like Tuesday at 11 p.m.
Yep, and brief parting shot, by the way, rest in peace to ESPN, longtime ESPN colleague, head guy of sports reporters, John Saunders. Very sad, tragic loss. Condolences to his family at this time. Rest in peace, John Saunders.
All right, before we sign off, I want to remind everyone to share this episode and our entire podcast on social media. Have their friends share it as well. And follow me on Spreaker at Taylor Phillips. Online at Spreaker.com, because I want to tell them that the Michigan Sports Truth podcast on here, on Spreaker, is in search of local advertising sponsors. If anyone has a business that's interested in sponsoring this program, please email me at TaylorGatorPhillips14 at yahoo.com, Phillips with two L's, or privately message me on Facebook or Twitter. For Ed Smith, I'm Taylor Phillips. If there's anything you fans want more of or less of on our podcast, please let us know. Follow us on Twitter at DT2Phillips and Ed Smith at EdSmith313. TTFN, ta-ta for now.
Bon appetit.